Free thinking, innovative, totally open-minded. Tommy Nation Politics. Your new independent progressive media, guys. You thought I was late? No, I was right on time, guys. We're going to talk about infrastructure, the strategic stakes of foreign projects, and so on and so forth. Also, current political events of the day. Thanks for joining us, guys. You can join the fight.
The biggest media story this weekend. It's the firing of Chris Cuomo from this network, CNN. Now, I've been working the phones ever since this was announced yesterday evening. Frankly, I've been on the phone until the last 5 minutes here getting information about what happened and where CNN goes from here. So I'd like to start, now that you know the news about Cuomo's firing, with a timeline of how it came to this point. Why was Chris Cuomo fired now, after CNN management supported him all year long? That's the key question I've been pursuing as a media reporter for the past, 18 hours or so. So here are the answers I have so far. Let's take a look at the day-by-day timeline this week to catch you up. On Monday, the New York Attorney General's office released that document dump. It landed with a thud. There was a lot to read, some of it damning, some of it about Chris. Now, Cuomo's view is that he never engaged in opposition research on behalf of his brother Andrew. Cuomo says he's never smeared anyone. He never went after any of his brother's accusers. Plus, the Attorney General's office never accused him of that. But the documents, especially the text messages between Cuomo and his brother's aides, showed a level of coziness with the governor's staff that was alarming to many. CNN leadership on Monday bought some time to scrutinize the documents by saying it would conduct a thorough review. So that was on Monday. On Tuesday, Cuomo's producers were back at work to produce another episode of Cuomo Primetime. But there was growing criticism of the anchorman, both outside and inside CNN. By the evening, management had seen enough in the documents to take action. Cuomo was suspended, quote, indefinitely, pending further evaluation. This language made clear that Cuomo was not just being benched for a week, in some sort of performative punishment. This was a real reprimand. But the language also left the door open for Cuomo to possibly return after the holidays, depending on that quote-unquote further evaluation. It seemed clear to me that management was balancing the concerns of staffers with the feelings of viewers. On one side, important complaints about Cuomo crossing clear journalistic lines and damaging CNN's brand. On the other side, concerns about Cuomo as a person and respect for the fact that he put his family first. And you know what? Some people felt all of the above. My phone was lighting up on Tuesday with calls from CNN staffers, some of whom said Cuomo should have been fired right away, but also with emails from viewers saying CNN was being unfair to the anchorman. So there was this balancing act going on. Now, unbeknownst to viewers or staffers, CNN management also engaged a premier law firm, Cravath, to assess the document dump. By Wednesday, with Cuomo's suspension all over the news, Cravath was quietly at work looking through the texts, looking through Cuomo's public statements, looking to see if it all lined up. At the same time, CNN boss Jeff Zucker held a meeting with the staff of Cuomo's primetime show, and the sentiments there were clearly in Cuomo's favor. This part has not been reported anywhere I've seen. Those staffers for the 9 p.m. show talked about the anchorman's talent and the pride they felt in the show. So there was a real wide array of feelings in this house. You've got CNN staffers saying, get rid of him, he shouldn't work here, he's hurt us. And then you have some of his own producers saying, let's bring him back, he should be back. Now here's the other thing that was unknown to the staff, or the press, or the public. Late Wednesday, a lawyer contacted CNN with a sexual misconduct complaint about Cuomo. On Thursday, CNN management reckoned with that charge, which is from an anonymous woman who worked with Cuomo years ago at ABC. The New York Times and other outlets had investigated Chris in the past, looking for signs of the same allegations that caused his brother's political downfall. So when a CNN spokesperson announced that additional information came to light, it was referring to that misconduct allegation. Now, right now, I know almost nothing about the allegation. Nothing's really been reported about it publicly, other than the fact that this staffer worked with Cuomo at ABC. But we'll catch up to that in a moment. We're on the timeline here. We're up to Friday. Okay, according to two sources familiar with the matter, the law firm, Cravath, turned in the results of its review on Friday. And the review said that CNN had grounds to terminate Cuomo. Zucker made the decision and notified Cuomo of his firing early Saturday afternoon. And then Zucker said in a memo to CNN staffers, quote, "It goes without saying that these decisions are not easy and there are a lot of complex factors involved. Chris Cuomo said in a statement that he didn't want his CNN career to end this way, and he thanked his staff for the great work that they've done over the years. As for the misconduct claim, the New York Times broke that news late last night, late Saturday, with attorney Deborah Katz saying her
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
Strategy, its basic form, consists of the actions managers take in pursuit of company objectives. Managers need to be explicit about the strategy they are following and how it relates to industry competitors. This type of positioning helps employees know how to focus their day-to-day efforts. The purpose of following an international strategy is to manage the differences that arise when operating across multiple geographic and cultural borders. Global managers are likely to adopt one of three distinct international strategies: domestic, meganational, transnational. These all help the company achieve profitable in a global market. So how are these strategies different? A company that pursues a multi-domestic strategy customizes products, services, so it can respond to customers in effect, it becomes a group of locally focused subsidiaries independently, like domestic companies, deciding how the product is designed, made, distributed, and marketed in their local markets. Group Danone started in Barcelona, Spain in 1919. The company introduced yogurt to Europe. 10 years later, in 1929, the company opened its first retail outlet in Paris, selling yogurt as a dessert. In 1942, the company expanded to the US. In 1970, the company expanded its products beyond yogurt with the purchase of Evian, a beverage and baby formula company. Over the next 20 years, the company purchased a number of food companies in Europe, expanded to over 140 countries. The mission of the company is to bring health through food to as many people as possible. Today, this mission guides 100,000 Danoners motivated by the belief that nutrition can and must contribute to bringing health to consumers of all ages, in all countries, and of all cultures. Doesn't selling the same thing to each of the market. The company believes in creating a product that meets the tastes of each country. For instance, as the company entered Russia in 1992, it built a factory and introduced yogurt brands specifically designed for the Russian. These include Danissimo, Activia and Rastishka, Actimel and Danakor. The company also purchased Unimilk, a Russian dairy company, is now the country's largest dairy producer. The company even hosts programs for Russian dairy farmers. Danone takes a similar multi-domestic strategy in each of its global markets to ensure that it is meeting the local needs of customers.
You want your vice president to be ready to lead. She can't even lead her own office. The problem is that she really was elevated above her ability. She was chosen by Joe Biden not because of her quality of her work or her intellect. It was because she was a woman and she was a woman of color. And that puts her in a bad position and it puts America in a terrible position.
That is New York Post columnist Miranda Devine getting into it over Vice President Kamala Harris amid reports of a toxic work environment and an exodus of her staff. But at least one top aide is insisting nothing to see here. Critics still roasting the vice president's deputy director for operations after he tweeted this: "He absolutely loves his job." One reply: "Blink twice if you need help." White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki asked, if somebody put him up to do that.
I'm not aware of any asks for a positive tweet or a specific tweet. I would point you to the Vice President's office, but I work with a number of people in the Vice President's office who certainly are looking forward to continuing their jobs.
Fox News contributor Joe Concha in Focus Now. So, John, this isn't just a bit of palace intrigue. I've been talking with lawmakers. They say, look, this may be a forecast of what's to come within that party as far as leadership. We need to know if people can do the job.
It's a great point, Harris. And you just look at the numbers, right? Let's forget about the palace intrigue and she said and he said. It's clear to see why Kamala Harris's office is in turmoil. She is polling at 28%. She rarely speaks to the press. As many Democrats will tell you, she has an authenticity and likability problem. I'll give you one example of how dire things are. When asked in a recent poll by the Hill and Harris X, who would you support if Joe Biden doesn't seek a second term? Kamala Harris clocked in at 13% supporting the idea. Just ahead of Michelle Obama. That's who finished second, who said repeatedly she's not running. She's mostly been off the grid for 5 years. So that's how Plan B in 2024 is going. And you know there's trouble when you have to send out staffers, sending out those photos looking like they're in a hostage situation, saying they love their job. The question is, what happens next? If an 80-something Joe Biden doesn't run, would they be open to an open primary and start over? I think that is going to be the plan if Joe Biden doesn't run. So that's where we are at this point. And again, we're only 11 months in since they took office.
Yeah, we're only 11 months away from the next go-around of elections and midterms. Chris Cuomo announced yesterday, and you and I have been talking about that this was possible, that he is leaving his SiriusXM radio show just days after CNN fired him. He also reportedly plans to sue CNN for a big chunk of change. Chris Cuomo also facing sexual misconduct accusations, as is his fellow anchor, Don Lemon, who faces claims he acted inappropriately toward a man in a bar on Long Island in 2018. That accuser went after the network, saying, quote, "They're a predator-protecting machine. They slander and smear victims with impunity. They are complicit. This is who they are." That's from an alleged victim. Joe.
Wow. Well, I guess this is the turmoil segment, because speaking of turmoil, CNN should just be called the Chaos News Network at this point, at least internally, right? I mean, first you have Chris Cuomo, who you brought up, the guy who wasn't reprimanded for faking his own quarantine when he had COVID, the guy who wasn't reprimanded for coaching those appearing on the network before interviews on questions and answers. That's fireable alone. The guy who received COVID testing before anyone else did in New York, courtesy of his brother, the guy who attempted to smear credible accusers of sexual harassment and lied about doing so. And now he's going to sue CNN for millions because he says top brass knew about everything he was doing and was okay with it. Boy, if this goes to trial, can you imagine what the discovery stage is going to look like? Because this isn't like the old mob, right? You've seen Goodfellas. You use a payphone so the conversation isn't recorded. You get the feeling there's a paper trail here, Harris. Emails, text, you name it. And then you have, to your point, anchor Don Lemon.
All right, hold on. Let's slow the train for just a second, because you mentioned a key point, what I call receipts. You talked about that paper trail, the digital trail with Jussie Smollett. Did you see this one coming? The intersection of Jussie Smollett on trial right now and Don Lemon. Yesterday, he testified, Smollett, that he got text messages from Don Lemon, supposedly relaying that the Chicago Police Department didn't believe Smollett's accounting of what happened. And at the time, Lemon told his viewers that the story was personal, since they were acquaintances and they had texted after the alleged 2019 incident. What to make of this?
It's like watching the whole Cuomo episode now replay itself with Don Lemon.
Ooh.
He tipped off somebody who was under investigation about the Chicago Police Department not believing his story. And that prompted Smollett, according to Smollett, for whatever that's worth, to withhold evidence, such as his phone and those records. So now CNN needs to address this next. But of course they haven't, because they don't do so until they absolutely have to. And you have to wonder, Harris, while all this is going on, what the top shareholder in John Malone of Liberty Media is thinking, because now he's the top shareholder of CNN, because he recently said CNN needs to get back to journalism. He praised Fox News for its journalistic performance in the process, and said CNN, I know, that was interesting. He did so on CNBC, so it's it's all crazy. Yeah.
Just real quickly, your last thought on where this goes now, because Don Lemon can say, well, I was just trying to buddy up so I could get the booking of this person for an exclusive interview or something. I mean, But when you talk about receipts, when you have those text messages, your last word.
Yeah, well, the problem is that he told Smollett what he heard from his sources within the Chicago Police Department. So it's no longer like I'm trying to help a friend. You're trying to affect an investigation. This is serious stuff. So
Last time we didn't get to see one one of it to G20. I hope next meet we do it in person.
President Biden and Vladimir Putin talking for 2 hours today, topping the agenda, Ukraine. Biden warning there will be very real costs if Russia in the country. We've got team coverage with NBC House reporter Lauren Egan and NBC News reporter Matt Bull. Lauren, first to you. This video call ended just after noon Eastern. What's the White House saying this afternoon about how it went?
That's right. That call wrapping up just a little bit ago. And the White House said that the president used the meeting to warn Russia, really concerned about steps that they've taken regarding Ukraine. They've amassed thousands of troops, tens of thousands of troops on the Russia-Ukrainian border. And the president warned not just the U.S., but also the U.S.'s allies that were deeply concerned about this and said that the U.S. could take economic action should Russia aggressive towards Ukraine, including a potential invasion of Ukraine. We are hearing from the White House right now the president's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan. Listen to what he had to say.
President Biden was direct and straightforward with President Putin, as he always is. He has support for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. He told President Putin directly that if Russia further invades Ukraine, the United States and our European allies would respond with strong economic measures. We would provide additional defensive materiel to the Ukrainians above and beyond that which we are already providing.
That briefing is ongoing, so we're keeping an ear on, and we will let you know what other news we get from that briefing. Hopefully some more information and some more details about what exactly these two leaders discussed, Allison.
All right, so Matt, let's get the take there in Moscow. Before the call, the Kremlin said it didn't expect any breakthroughs. What's the reaction there tonight?
Well, Allison, there actually hasn't been too much of a reaction yet because we only just now, literally minutes ago, got the Kremlin readouts. And I've taken a look through it. It is much, much longer than the White House readout, but it does confirm the main points that were mentioned in that readout. It acknowledges Biden's threat of sanctions, then also gives Vladimir Putin a lot of breathing room to respond to Biden. Well, it says predictable things. It's blaming Ukraine for the current Ukraine that's trying to provoke Russia. Also throwing accusations at NATO, saying that it's NATO causing this because it's trying to move into Ukraine. So basically, familiar talk points more.
So, Lauren, what other issues did President Biden bring up besides this talk about Ukraine?
The White House said the president also brought up with Putin cyber attacks as well as Iran's nuclear program. If you remember when President Biden and Putin for their first in-person meeting, that's when we were talking a lot about cyber attacks. We had seen a litany of attacks against U.S. companies as well as government agencies. And that was a huge source of tension early on in this Biden administration between the two countries. That is something that we have been in ongoing talks with Russia about, both on the presidential level as well as with lower level officials. That is something the White House says that they want to keep conversing with Putin on. So those were other topics on the agenda during that meeting, Allison.
Matt, Biden and Putin last met face-to-face in Geneva. That was back in June. Any plans for another summit? How'd they leave things today?
So in the statement, there's another mention that Putin said that he wanted a legally binding guarantee that NATO won't expand into Ukraine. And then the Russian statement concludes that both sides agreed that they would now take these issues to the lower level, and we'll see probably a lot of officials shuttling back and forth. But, we've been seeing that actually for months since Geneva. There's a bit of a sense of deja vu now. This meeting probably wasn't going to happen if it was not for basically all the saber rattling Russia's been doing. We were expecting a summit, I believe, earlier next day. We'll see if that's still happening.
So much.
Today's top stories. Downloading the NBC News.
A basic principle of modern state capitalism is that costs and risks are socialized. That's a socialism for the rich and capitalism for everyone else. Socialism for the rich, capitalism for everyone else. What does that do, guys? Leads to what I call tyranny. But this isn't tyranny, guys. This is Tommy Nation Politics. Free thinking, innovative, totally open-minded. Tommy Nation Politics. I'm a little dressed up today, but not too much because I was dressed up with Dr. Burgess on Sunday. We did the string tyranny. And when it comes to strategic principles of infrastructure, guys, something I've been working on all week. Face-to-face over 2 hours, President Joe Biden and Russia's Vladimir Putin squared off, guys, in a secure video call on Zoom. Patents not pending. So that was today, as the U.S. president put Moscow on notice that an invasion of Ukraine would bring enormous harm to the Russian economy. With tens of thousands of Russian troops massed on the Ukraine border, the highly anticipated call between two leaders came amid growing worries by the U.S. and Western allies about Russia's threat to its neighbor. Putin, for his part, came into the meeting seeking guarantees from Biden that the NATO military alliance will never expand to include Ukraine. The NATO military alliance, guys, keep that shit on lock. It's no longer sought membership, Ukraine, by the way. The Americans and their NATO allies said the request was a non-starter. So that means they're still pursuing Ukraine membership, even though Ukraine has long sought membership, has not got it yet. There appeared to be no immediate breakthroughs to ease tensions on the Ukraine questions, as the U.S. emphasized the need for diplomacy and de-escalation and issued stern threats to Russia on the consequences of invasion. Biden told President Putin directly that if Russia further invades Ukraine, the United States and our European allies would respond with strong economic measures. You know the thing. Look, buddy, you ever been to Iowa? Yes, U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that to the Associated Press after the call. He added that Biden said the U.S. would also provide additional defensive material to the Ukrainians. Vis-a-vis concordantly, guys, we would arm rebels, as we usually do, the CIA. That could include additional deployments of U.S. troops as well to Eastern European NATO allies. So Jay Sullivan's all about that shit. We have the Secretary of the State, Mr. Pineapple Under the Sea, Mr. Blinken. He's the FBI's bitch. We have the U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who is the CIA's bitch, apparently. A top U.S. envoy, Victoria Nuland, said a Russian invasion of Ukraine would also jeopardize controversial pipelines and pipeline plans. Oh, call me shocked and chagrined. Between Russia and Germany. She told the Senate Foreign Relations Committee Tuesday that if Russia invaded, our expectation, quote, is that the pipeline will be suspended. Putin's foreign advisors, Yuri Yukrashov, dismissed these sanctions, threats, and all that during a conference call with the reporters, saying, quote, while the U.S. president talked about the possible sanctions, our president, President Vladimir Putin, our president emphasizes that Russia needs, Yushchenko said. Sanctions aren't something new. They have been in place for a long time. It will not affect. They will not affect, guys. This is where we're at, guys. This is where we're at with the international strategies and the infrastructure. We have China $1 trillion infrastructure all along the world to make people pro-Chinese and cause influence. And we have Russia and Germany making a pipeline in the Middle East, which we want a piece of, but we jump in it and we are asking for sanctions. But there is sanctions all the time in Russia. We jump in the sanctions. We jump in it. Looks like Biden's empty threats are becoming more and more hollow and empty as the rest of the world starts to fucking smell our bullshit and call up. This will be the time, guys, where I haven't have a guest, but I don't have guests today because nobody went back to me. I have Mr. John Hillman. Somebody tweet that guy. He's talking about China. He's talking about the influence peddling of China and the Biden dreams of United States peddling vis-a-vis concordantly China. And then we have the Zoom call from Russia. That's the news. And that's also at the CNN we have Cuomo gone, and we have Jesse Smollett on trial. Not a really exciting, guys. But what is exciting is, guys, first Cuomo and now Lemon. I don't think CNN's news. I don't think so, guys. But we are everything innovative, totally open-minded, progressive media. If you want to donate us. We should donate to the Domination Politics, guys. TNP Capital, TNP Domination Politics, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. We'll take all of your donations and we'll kick the establishment in the balls with them. That's all I have to say. That's what I have to say about that, guys. I'm making this quick and short because I'm a guest today. I have millions of questions. Hopefully my questions will be answered throughout the week. But I hope that you guys are free thinking, innovative, totally open-minded throughout that week. And I'll be with you.